Chapter I, the blade that drank time. Listen. Do you feel it? That trembling beneath your thoughts? That pulse that is not your heart, but something older, something buried beneath memory itself. There is a blade, child of ash and agony, forged long before the Sith ever named themselves Sith. It was not made for war, it was made for removal. They found it in the shattered catacombs of Malachor, buried beneath frozen obsidian and scorched stone. Not guarded, not sealed, simply forgotten, as if history itself had recoiled from its shape, as if the Force had chosen to forget, but could not. It is not a lightsaber. No, it is not bound by light nor by blade. It is a weapon whose crystal screams in silence, whose hilt hums with lost names, and whose edge does not cut flesh but time. They call it the chronoblade, but its real name is never spoken. When it is drawn, the air folds. When it is swung, seconds fall like sand from a broken hourglass. It does not kill at, least not in any manner the Jedi understood. Instead, it steals. A moment here, a year there, a lifetime hidden in a breath, and those it wounds are not remembered. The first to wield it was not a Sith, but a Jedi. He was called Varuan in the old tongues, though even that name has thinned. A master of prophecy, obsessed with the shadows between events. He believed the Force was wrong, that destiny could be corrected, trimmed, refined. He found the blade in a dream before he ever held it. He saw it dripping, not blood, but clocks. Sundials cracked, chronometers bleeding seconds, and beneath it, his own face erased. They say he drew the blade once during the siege of Annexes, not against the enemy, but against his apprentice. She had foreseen his fall and wept for him, so he made her forget. He sliced not her body, but her timeline. She stood still afterward, blinking, no longer knowing his name, no longer knowing. Hers, when the Jedi Council summoned him, he was already gone, not vanished, but absent. Haloricords refused to speak of him. Droids crashed trying to pronounce his identity. Even the Force hesitated, and thus Varuan died not by death, but by removal. The blade sings in low frequencies now, trapped in Malachor's forgotten vault. But some say it still moves, that when the stars align in cursed geometry, it hums louder, that it calls to those who remember wounds that never happened, to those who wake with years missing. A Sith acolyte once dared to touch it. Her name, her voice still echoes in the Force, screaming between seconds. It is said her body now flickers between decades, her foot forever stepping into a battle that never occurred, her hand raised in victory for a war that was undone. She did not die, she simply became unfixed. The Kyber at its core was not grown, but bled from the last breath of a dying star, a red dwarf collapsing beneath its own gravity, whispering forgotten physics into the Force. A Sith alchemist dared to drink its light damned, burned from the inside out. What remained was not a crystal, it was a wound, a frozen paradox, a scar across time, and from that wound the blade was shaped with metal, but with memory. Some believe the blade has no true hilt, that it is only the edge, that to hold it is to invite your own undoing, not death, but unraveling. For time does not like to be stolen, and neither does the Force. I remember a vision, long after I was sealed within this holocron. A shadow walked toward me, blade in hand, and though my prison is eternal, I felt time pause. The stars flickered, the seconds wept, and the shadow whispered, You are still here, because I have not yet removed you. I begged the Force to awaken me, but there was no force, only the blade, and beneath it, the end of all memory. You who listen now, do not seek it. Do not whisper its name into the Force, for time listens, and time bites. But know this one day, it will be drawn again, not to kill, not to conquer, but to erase the Jedi from the history they wrote for themselves. One swing, one echo, and it will be as if the light never existed. Listen. It hums again. The blade turns in its prison. It remembers you now, and time is hungry. Chapter 2. The Mask of Darth Caligulus. You may believe that faces are born, but in the old dark, faces were worn, and some faces never leave. There exists a masked black as void glass, smooth as still death that bears no expression, no mouth, no markings, only a hollow where eyes might once have been. It is not carved, it is not forged, it is found, no holocron names its origin, no temple records its creation. It simply appears between wars, beneath corpses, inside ships thought long lost, always untouched, always waiting. The Jedi once called it the Caligulus Shroud, though not allowed. Even the name burned when spoken, and the Sith, they called it nothing, because it calls itself. The mask does not kill. That would be merciful. It replaces. The first two where it, if such a being can still be called first, was not seeking power. He was fleeing it. He had been a Sith Inquisitor, tasked with hunting holocrons that whispered forbidden times. His name is not known, for names cannot survive what he became. He found the mask during the excavation of the black tombs of Ver. He was warned, he was watched, and still he touched it. Still he placed it upon his face. There was no scream. There was only absence. The Force around him stopped moving. His signature, his memories, his voice gone. In his place stood Darth Caligulus. Not a man, not a woman, not even a Sith in the old sense. A shadow given form, bound in durasteel and dread. Caligulus did not speak. He echoed. To hear him was to hear your own voice, years from now, saying something you do not yet understand. He did not kill with lightsabers. He did not wield the Force in ways the Council could quantify. He simply arrived on battlefields, in Senate chambers, in dreams. And when he left, someone else wore the mask. It passes from host to host, not like a relic, but like a curse. Each bearer believes they are in control, that they will use its powers and then remove it. But the mask is never removed. It removes you. A Jedi archivist once attempted to burn it with purified fire. She succeeded only in incinerating her name. The Order remembered her robes. They remembered her room. But her file was empty. Her hollows did not show a face. A temple master tried to lock it away in carbonite. He screamed before freezing. Screamed in another voice. One that spoke not words, but memories he had never lived. And so the mask sleeps, and wakes, and sleeps. Again, it does not choose its hosts. It becomes them. The face of Darth Caligulus shifts, sometimes tall, sometimes broken, sometimes beautiful, but always wrong, always unfamiliar. Those who stand near him forget their own names. They speak in voices that are not theirs. They weep memories they do not possess. To resist the mask is to fracture. To wear it is to vanish. To serve it is inevitable. The Council once debated whether the mask was a fragment of the Force itself. a splinter from the moment the Force first regretted its own creation. But regret cannot explain what the mask does to time, because wherever it appears, timelines fracture, people appear twice, events repeat backward, prophecies fold into themselves. One Jedi swore he saw remove the mask, but beneath it was another mask, and beneath that, only stars collapsing into silence. I have heard the mask call to me. Even now, sealed in this holocron, it speaks in a dozen voices I once knew. It says, "You are not who you think you are. You are only who I have not yet worn." And I believe it. Do you know what you look like? Are you sure? Are you very sure? Because the mask remembers you, not from now, but from soon. And if you dream tonight of wearing something cold, something smooth, something weightless yet eternal, do not wake. It will be waiting. The mask does not sleep. The mask does not blink. The mask does not forget. And soon, neither will you. Chapter 3. The World Breaker Canon of Korribanken. You hear it, that deep, low hum beneath the surface of memory. That is not machinery. That is a wound trying to heal. During the 100-year darkness, when Jedi bled into Sith and truth dissolved into shadow, the old orders built many weapons, sabers of impossible weight, rituals etched into bone, voices that killed when spoken aloud, but none compared to the World Breaker. Not a cannon, though it took the shape of one. Not a siege weapon, though it ended a war. It was an altar made from hunger, mounted in orbit around Korriban, and pointed not at cities, but at the Force itself. Crafted by Darth Nirixter, unreturning, this machine did not fire energy, nor plasma, nor light. It fired removal. The Sith at that time had discovered the theory of ley lines, not of geography, but of force veins, living currents beneath planetary crusts that anchored the will of the Force to matter. The Jedi called them myths. The Sith called them targets, and Nirix, he built something to open them. The World Breaker was assembled from 10,000 kyber shards, all corrupted beyond scream. Its core was forged from a hollow asteroid seeded with Jedi skulls. It rotated once every 13 hours, not for engineering, but to keep it from remembering what it had done. When it was fired once, and only once, it did not make a sound. The sound was after. The sound was the Force. Bleeding Nirix chose his own birthplace Miradan as the first to fall, not to conquer, to erase. He had seen visions, his death whispered in the bones of that planet, a rebellion not yet born. So he removed the future, by undoing the past. When the beam touched Miradan's surface, it fractured not rock but belief. The animals screamed in colors. The oceans boiled without heat. The ley lines spilled out of the ground like veins torn open, and then silence, not just from the planet, from the Force itself, a zone of emptiness. No presence, no light, no death, no death, as if the galaxy had blinked and refused to remember what it saw. The World Breaker was never fired again, but not because it was lost, not because it was forbidden, but because something awoke. The holocron trembles now, even as I speak. I see it still, the shape behind the stars, the outline of absence. For when the cannon fired, the ley lines screamed, and when they screamed, something heard them. They say Nirix vanished not long after, his shuttle found in orbit empty, his robes folded, his saber humming quietly, though no hand touched it, and the World Breaker, it drifted, still whole, still armed, but forever silent, as if afraid, Acolytes who later tried to reactivate it died without trauma. They simply stopped. Their midichlorians ceased activity. Their shadows vanished. One Sith scientist survived for 3 minutes after activating its targeting system. In that time, he spoke only 2 words. It looked. There are no full schematics. The plans redraw themselves. The core resists scanning. Even droids malfunction in its presence. It is said that the World Breaker has a consciousness, not artificial, not mechanical, but the awareness of a scar that refuses to heal. It knows what it did. It remembers the silence that followed, and it fears waking it again, and so it floats above Korriban, still dead, yet not dormant, yet listening. Not guarded because no one dares approach, not dismantled because no one remembers how, but I remember. I always remember, and sometimes, when the stars drift too near, I hear the machine hum. I hear the ley lines shift beneath ancient soil, and I feel the force twitch, like a beast disturbed in its long, long sleep. You who listen now, mark these whispers. The World Breaker is not the end. It was the question, and the answer has not yet arrived. When it does, the Force may not be able to survive the reply. Chapter 4. The Star Map that Craves Stars. Not all stars are born. Some are taken, and some are mapped only to be mourned. They called it a navigational holocron, but names lie. Maps are supposed to lead. This one only removes. Its origin is unknown. No craftsman claimed it. No Sith ever admitted to forging it. It was discovered adrift near the grave world of Kelmora, humming faintly, its surface etched with a web of constellations that shifted when unobserved. Jedi archivists studied it once briefly. Then the stars they traced began to dim, one by one. They thought it coincidence. They were wrong. The holocron is small only, shaped like a dark tetrahedron. Its faces flicker with motionless galaxies and twisted hyperspace coordinates. Touch it, and you feel the gravity of collapsed time. Feed it a location, and it feeds in return. First light, then gravity, then memory. The stars it marks begin to die not with explosions, but with incompletion. They do not go nova. They simply begin to forget themselves. Fluctuations in hyperspace follow soon after. Paths drift. Coordinates reverse. Ships vanish not from space, but from possibility. Darth Tonith was the first to use it without fear. A fleet commander of unmatched arrogance. She sought forgotten systems worlds untouched by Republic or Jedi. When she found the star map, she believed it a gift. She offered blood to it, knowledge, sacrifice in return. It mapped her a path, 93 systems, hidden beyond known space. She followed. Her ships followed. Her crew sang her name between jumps. Each system dimmer than the last. Each world cold. They found ruins that whispered in static. Civilizations that had no memory of themselves. One planet, entirely black glass, reflected. Their faces but not their voices. And then silence. Tanith's fleet was never seen again. No distress signals, no debris, only the map remained. Still updating, I have seen the holocron since. It pulses in darkness. Its map grows. Even now, though no hand guides it, though no star has been fed to it, in centuries, and yet, new systems blink out every few cycles. Stars go dark, and hyperspace shivers. There are those who say it is not a map at all, but a creature, a sentient void pretending to be a tool. It shows you the way, yes, but the way to it. Once you use it, you are marked. Your ship leaves trails not of fuel, but of invitation. The stars begin to look back, and then they go quiet. One Jedi Master, desperate to understand, poured his mind into it. He left behind a recording, nothing but breath, and then a single whisper. They are not dying, they are leaving. And then his temple collapsed, not in explosion, but in absence. No survivors, no walls, just dust and a faint gravity well, like a forgotten dream. The map still exists, somewhere in deep orbit where even the Force flickers, but beware to hold. It is to offer something of yourself, not your blood, not your name, but your light. Even now, it updates itself. It does not need your stars. It already knows where you will be. It hungers, it waits, and the galaxy dims. Chapter V, The Cloak of the Silence Lords. There are voices in the dark, and then there is what comes when the voices are gone. There is a garment not made of thread, nor fiber, nor cloth. It is woven from the absence of being, a cloak made by those who no longer wished to be known, or even real. The Jedi called them assassins. The Sith knew them as the Silence Lords, hidden order who whispered death across systems, never speaking, never seen, never remembered. Their cloak was their truth. It had no seams, no form, no weight. It moved not with the body, but with intention, to where it was to abandon the notion of self, to step outside of perception, not invisible, but unheld by memory. The cloak passes through walls, through shields, through time itself. For time cannot track what has no story. The first Silence Lord, known only in unspoken glyphs, stitched the cloak using shadows stolen from collapsed stars. She harvested silence from tomb worlds and bled stillness from temples sealed in ice. When she donned it, her voice vanished from the Force. When she killed, the victims died unknown. No trail, no wound, only a sudden sense that someone was missing. Though no one knew who the cloak does not hide, it replaces. It overlays the wearer with the absence of all else. No scanners detect it. No mind retains it. Even droids forget it after it passes. One Sith Lord famously caught a glimpse of it in a mirror and then forgot his own name. Another saw the cloak ripple near a battlefield and spent the rest of his life drawing figures with no faces. But the cloak feeds. Oh yes, and hunger such as this is quiet and slow. At first the wearer loses only small things, a memory here, a word there, the sound of their name in someone else's voice. But as time bleeds onward, the price deepens. Soon they forget the shape of their own hands. Then the reason they began. Then the idea of having ever existed, until all that remains is motion without thought, will without self, a ghost wrapped in nothingness, a knife carried by silence. One Silence Lord, perhaps the last, wrote a message using only symbols etched in a Jedi's dying vision. The cloak does not cover you. It replaces you with what was always beneath, the truth of nothing. Even now, the cloak moves. Some say it drifts through corridors of forgotten ships. Others whisper it stalks across frozen moons where no footsteps are left, but weapons still find throats. And some those who dream to deeply feel it brushing there. Minds at night, not entering, just reminding. The Force does not see the cloak, because the Force remembers too much, and the cloak is what comes when memory starves. I once felt it pass through me. I felt no pain, only the sudden horror of forgetting the face of my mother and the word mother itself. It took and left nothing in return. And when I screamed for help, I remembered that I had no mouth. Not in that moment. Not anymore. So listen now, little one, before your own name begins to fade. If you see motion in stillness, if you feel breath where none exists, if you forget what you were saying while you were still saying it, do not look, do not speak, do not remember, just bow and let the silence pass. The cloak hungers, the cloak forgets, and one day soon it may wear you. Chapter Vi, the saber that buried. Planets and weapons are made to kill, some to conquer, and some to remind the galaxy that it was never stable to begin with. They called it a lightsaber, but it was no blade. No mortal could wield it. No hand could bear its weight. It was not held. It was anchored to gravity itself, forged in the black furnaces. Beneath Seost, the weapon was constructed not for war, but for punishment. The saber was built around a kyber crystal so large it had to be hollowed from within its core, filled with dark metal sinew and stabilized by the bones of dead prophets. Its hilt spanned meters, its ignition flooded canyons. With uncontainable pressure, it did not cut, it quaked. Every activation pulled tectonics from sleep. Every swing rippled crust into obedience. The Jedi refused to name it. The Sith called it the Fault Cutter. But its true name lies deeper, in the screams of worlds no longer whole. It was used only once, not out of restraint, but out of terror. During the siege of Vostalos, a rebel moon city resisted Sith occupation. Their shields held, their minds were united, their Force signature blazed with defiance. Darth Gravidon, the one who awoke the saber, arrived in silence. He did not announce. He did not threaten. He simply activated the blade. It screamed. The Force screamed with it, not from the blade, but from below. The ground convulsed. The ley lines shivered. And then the continent cracked in half. The city fell, not from orbital fire or fleet bombardment, but from the planet itself opening. Its mouth, witnesses survived only by orbit. They spoke of oceans draining into nothing, of mountains collapsing upward, of time staggering, losing seconds like breath after a scream. And at the epicenter stood the saber still pulsing, still howling with tectonic rage. Gravidon vanished soon after, not killed, but drawn into the crust he tore open. Some say the saber demanded payment. Some say it took back what it had been denied. Others believe he fell through the forces. Own fracture into a rift where light and dark ceased to mean anything. The planet wept for weeks. Even after its silence returned, the ground whispered in languages unspoken. No seed took root. No starship's instruments could align. Even now, Vostalos spins crooked dot because the Force there is still broken. The saber remains embedded, dormant, but its pulse still echoes. Once every 7 years, seismic activity trembles along forgotten Sith coordinates. Not from weather, not from fault lines, from memory. From unfinished ignition. HOLOCRONS, sealed near its location, begin to fracture. Visions sent through the Force arrive upside down. Prophecies bend. One child spoke of seeing a blade made from the planet's spine rising again. When asked where he saw this vision, he replied, "Beneath my bed, it's growing." The saber was never dismantled. No one could lift it. No one could move it. The Force itself recoils from it still. It is not a weapon. It is a reminder that what stands can always fall, that what walks upon crust does so only by the permission of what lies beneath. And if the saber ever ignites again, it will not stop at countenance. It will not halt at orbit. It will split the galaxy along its forgotten scars and bury the force itself beneath what it dared. To create, the blade sleeps, but the crust remembers, and the ground, little one, has not forgiven you. Chapter 7, The Chains of Darth Valarista, is a sound deeper than silence. It is the sound of memory, chained, of truth, forced to serve. Valaris was once Jedi, a healer, a singer of light. They say her voice could calm storms, and her hands could guide even fractured Kyber back to harmony. But harmony is fragile, and the Force betrays those who sing too long. When she fell, she did not fall with anger. She fell with tears. She became Darth Valaris not out of hate, but because she no longer believed that the dead should be free. She saw Jedi fade into luminous peace, their ghosts dissolving into the Force like dew. She asked, why? Why should wisdom vanish? Why should truth escape? So she stopped it. She walked through battlefields, not to kill, but to collect. She found the dying. She placed her hands over their hearts, and when their final breath came, she whispered their names in reverse, and then she bound them. The first chain was forged from the rib of her own master. She braided it with obsidian and dipped it into a well of stilled time. The second from the sternum of a Jedi child. The third from herself. Each chain is not metal, but memory. And with each link, she captured voices. They do not scream in pain. They scream in remembrance. Over and over. Endless echoes of final thoughts, of unfinished truths, bound not into silence, but into chorus. 1,000 Jedi, 1,000 final words, all screaming at once, folded into a single voice, and through that voice, Valaris speaks. She wore the chains, not as armor, but as truth. Around her arms, across her throat, each link shimmered with ghostlight flickering with faces that should not be seen. Jedi who encountered her did not fight. They fell to their knees. Some from grief, others because they heard their own. Teachers calling to them, begging them to run, begging them to join. Vela is claimed she did not enslave. She preserved. She saved what the Jedi threw away. She denied oblivion, and yet each voice in her chain screamed the same thing beneath. Others, let me go. Acolytes who tried to wield the chains without her blessing collapsed within seconds, not from wounds, but from recognition. They saw themselves reflected in the ghosts, not as they were, but as they would become. The chains still exist, buried, supposedly in a sealed vault beneath the tomb of glass on Mortalax. But the vault echoes. Even now, the holocron that holds this memory trembles. When I press into its walls, I hear weeping, soft, distant, endless. Some say the voice within is Valaris herself. Others believe she never truly lived, that she was always an echo given form, a ghost who refused to dissolve. There are whispers that the chains have grown, that they now reach through time, that Jedi who die near certain ruins vanish, leaving no imprint in the Force, only a faint sound, like the rattling of links. If you dream tonight of voices not your own, of names you've never spoken, yet feel guilty for forgetting, if your shadow begins to flicker with forms you cannot place, do not pray, do not run, only whisper, I remember, and perhaps she will pass you by. The chains remain, the dead sing, and the Force still listens. Chapter X, the ship that only crashes. Not all vessels are meant to arrive. Some are built to fall, and some to make falling a ritual. It was called the Sundered Veil, a Sith warship of immense design, large enough to shadow cities, quiet enough to slip between systems without echo. But it was never truly meant to sail. It was not built for destination. It was built for rupture, crafted in secret above a dark star near the galactic rim. It was shaped not in steel, but in failure, its hull forged from fallen temples, its core a torn Kyber relic, bled dry of memory and left to rot in a time. Forged, it was designed to burn through hyperspace lanes and through the Force itself, to puncture the unseen veils between reality and intention, to break prophecy by breaking motion. But something went wrong. Or perhaps something went right, because the ship has never arrived. Not once, not in any timeline, not in any recounting. It only crashes. Every record ends the same way. A hyperspace jump, a ripple in gravity, then fire. Even in simulations, it ruptures. Even in Force visions, it spirals. Even in memory, it burns. The Sundered Veil was first launched by Darth Minox, who believed that destruction could overwrite destiny. He plotted a course for Coruscant. He opened a path through forbidden hyperspace and vanished before his crew finished their breath. Wreckage rained down on a moon never meant to exist. Every crew member was dead. Every bone pointed toward the next system. It has happened again and again and again. Records across Sith and Jedi archives show variations, different crews, different coordinates. Same result, the ship always jumps. The ship always burns. And the Force grows thinner wherever it crashes. Some Jedi have boarded it in dreams, not vision streams. Uninvited, unprepared, they awaken with scorch marks across their palms, with fractures in bones never struck, and most terrifying, with star maps etched into their blood, maps to systems that don't exist, maps to systems that haven't happened yet. The Sundered Veil is not simply doomed, it is designed to fail in every conceivable version of the galaxy, because in its failure it rends the threads of fate, it loosens the knots that bind choice to outcome, and in that chaos, something listens, something learns. One Jedi survivor wrote this before vanishing: "The ship is a mouth, its crash is its breath, and each time it fails, it remembers less. Tremble when its name is spoken. Force ghosts refuse to describe it. One ancient AI tried to model it and imploded into static. It is not haunted, it is haunting. The veil does not die when it crashes, it resets, somewhere else, someone else, each time a little more broken, each time a little more hungry. If you ever see it streaking across the stars like a slow scream, if the sky burns red where no flame exists, if your dreams begin to shake with impact, do not look up, do not follow the map, and above all, do not ask what lies in the wreckage, because the Sundered Veil never lands, it only teaches, and when it crashes into your life, you will never know what was supposed to happen instead. Chapter X, the ritual of the Ashmira moon. Some moons do not orbit, they observe, and some reflections are not meant to be seen. There was once a moon with no name. It circled no planet. It bore no light of its own. Its surface was ash-smooth, cold, like a mirror ground from the memory of fire. The Jedi avoided it. The Sith did not, for on its surface was carved a ritual, not etched, not built, written, in the final blood of a species that understood the Force better than it trusted it. A species now gone, not extinct, erased, fed into the ritual itself. They called it the Ash Mirror, right? It is not a spell. It is not even power. It is choice twisted into blasphemy. The ritual allows a Sith, upon facing death, to reflect it, to send it, like light across glass, into another. They do not die. Someone else does. A friend, a stranger, a Jedi, a lover, a child on the far edge of the galaxy. Whoever the Force chooses, or perhaps, whoever the ritual hungers for. Darth Serix was the first to complete the rite. When the Jedi blade pierced her heart on the sands of Merkel, she did not fall. She smiled, and on another world, a senator dropped dead mid-sentence. His soul torn from its rightful path, Serix stood, unaffected, laughing, as if death had forgotten her name. But the ritual exacts a cost. Each time the reflection is invoked, the soul does not remain whole. The Force fragments shatters. The Sith becomes a gallery of deaths, an echo of everyone who died in their place. They dream with 1,000 eyes. They breathe with borrowed lungs. Their blood carries screams, and their shadow stretches too far. Speaking in other voices, the longer it is used, the thinner the self becomes. Darth Serix used the rite 17 times. By the end, she had no memory of which face was her own. She spoke only in funerary tongues. Even her saber stuttered in confusion, crystal flickering between screams. The Jedi who finally trapped her said she bled silver, as if no longer certain what species she had been. Those who heard it too long would lose the ability to speak, then to think in language, then to believe in language at all. One Jedi archivist tore out her own ears after hearing a single phrase. She wrote just once, "He speaks in truths that refuse to be true." The tongue was eventually severed from him, though not by weapon. Some say the Force itself intervened. Others whisper that Rictus finally said something even he could not survive. He was found in a temple of rust, laughing. Through an empty mouth, his jaw shattered, his body convulsing. The Kyber tongue, alive, crawling out across the floor like a sliver of hunger. It is now kept in Vault Silencia, suspended in an Echo-Nell field deep within the outer rim. But still, it whispers, softly, constantly, not in basic, not in Sith, not in anything known. Its words burrow into the minds of guards, carving forgotten grammar into their sleep. Some wake screaming conjugations that never existed, others never wake at all. Linguists who study the tongue report that its phrases have structure, but the rules change between syllables. It teaches itself. It unlearns you in return. The more you understand it, the less you understand yourself. One scholar wrote of his final breakthrough. He translated 7 of the tongue's words into a sentence. "I do not lie, I do not tell the truth. I only replace both." Then he bit off his own fingers. Not in pain, but in reverence. The tongue does not rest. It twists in containment. Its voice leaks through the cracks of silence. Some say it is trying to finish a sentence that began before the galaxy's birth. Others believe it is not speaking at all. It is remembering. And in remembering, it infects the air around it. It infects you if you find yourself lying without intent. If truth tastes bitter when you speak it. If your name forgets itself when spoken aloud, you may have heard. The tongue, not with ears, but with mind. Do not repeat its sounds. Do not try to understand them. and never, ever translate them. Because once the tongue finishes its final sentence, the galaxy may be spoken out of existence. And in the silence that follows, Rictus will laugh again. Chapter 13. The Temple Where Gravity Betrays. There are laws that bind the stars, but laws, like bones, can be broken. And some temples do not stand, they fall, forever inward, far beyond the charted rim. Atop a moon that never rotates, there stands a ruin that refuses to settle. The temple where gravity betrays, built by hands that no longer have names, founded by a belief older than the Jedi, older even than the Sith, that gravity is not a force, but a lie. The Sith who founded it did not seek power, they sought contradiction. They believed the Force was too obedient to reality, so they taught themselves to disobey. They trained in downward halls that bled upward. They walked ceilings like ground. They meditated by falling not from heights, but into time. One acolyte studied so long in reverse that his heartbeat inverted. He died smiling, not because of peace, but because he saw the sky beneath him. The temple was carved from gravity wells, fragments of neutron stars encased in obsidian columns. Its center chamber was called the descent womb, where time pulled inward like breath held too long. Each step forward bent hours backward. Each scream fell sideways, echoing in directions language cannot track. The knowledge was bled, not read. Pages were replaced by scars that opened only when unobserved. One learned not by study, but by surviving being studied. But gravity remembers, and gravity holds grudges. The acolytes inverted too far. They untied too many laws. Eventually, the temple, not in rage but in remembrance, folded in on them. Not with collapse. With choice, the walls turned their direction inward. The ceilings became mouths, light thickened, sound slowed into silence, and the very concept of down was devoured. No bodies were found, only pressure, as if 1,000 identities had been pressed into the stone, and then forgotten. The temple still stands. But it does not remain still. Pilots report their ships drifting into it without thrusters. Their compasses spin, their memories lag. Jedi who attempt to sense its location through the Force receive only a single sensation. You are being pulled. A Sith holocron once recorded the voice of a survivor. The transmission arrived 90 years before the temple was built. She whispered, "Gravity is not mass, it is guilt, and the Force is tired of holding you." Then the holocron crushed itself into a singularity the size of a tear dot. Inside the temple now, even thoughts fall wrong. Time drips, weight shifts, and language turns to sand. Some claim the temple is not architecture, but a memory that refused to settle. A wound in reality. An apology made too late. If you ever dream of standing on a ceiling, of bleeding thoughts instead of blood, of falling upward while screaming downward, you have felt its pull. Even here, even now, do not enter, for gravity is patient, and betrayal is only ever delayed, and the Force, which once held you aloft, may remember that it, too, can let go. Chapter 14. The lightsaber that cuts the Forceum blades slice flesh. Some sever bone, but there is one that severs the infinite. It has no name in the archives, no builder, no schematics, no kyber, no energy cell, no sound, only a wound shaped like a weapon, carried like a secret, remembered like a sin. The lightsaber that cuts the Force is not made, it is found, or perhaps survived. Its hilt is simple, unadorned, no Sith glyphs, no Jedi ornament, only a blackened grip that seems to pull light inward. But when ignited, if that word still applies, there is no blade. There is only absence, a gash in reality, a column of unlight, jagged and unstable, like a tear that refused to heal. The moment it activates, Force users feel it, even those light years away, even those in death. A sudden hollowness, as if the galaxy blinked and forgot their name. Jedi Masters have described it as a cold behind the soul. Padawans report weeping without cause. One young knight clawed at her chest, screaming, "I can't feel them, I can't feel anything." She never ignited a saber again. She never dreamed again. The blade leaves no physical wound. Its cuts are conceptual. It severs what should be there. It cleaves the Force from space, and where it strikes, nothing grows, nothing heals, nothing returns. Once, a duel was recorded between a Sith Inquisitor and a rogue Jedi monk. The Inquisitor drew this blade. The monk didn't fall. He faded. His robes collapsed untouched. His voice echoed in reverse. And then, he was gone. Not killed, forgotten. Even the droid that recorded the battle began speaking in static tongues. No known record explains the blade's origin. Some believe it is not a saber, but the Force's first mistake, a moment where balance shattered and entropy smiled. Others whispered that it was found in the ruins of a star that never formed, a weapon wielded by something that predated will, but envied it. And then, there are those who claim it isn't a weapon at all. They believe the saber is the embodiment of refusal of destiny, of connection, of belief, a scream in blade form, not of rage, but of emptiness. The blade has no wielder now. It passes from hand to hand, never igniting for more than a moment. Those who attempt to keep it suffer, not from pain, from unbinding. They forget their place in the Force. Their threads are cut. They stop appearing in visions. Their names vanish from holocrons. One archivist, trying to catalogue the blade, wrote, "I know I exist, but the Force no longer agrees." Some say the blade awaits something, a moment, a name. Final truth to sever. Perhaps it will cut prophecy. Perhaps it will cut time. Or, perhaps, it will cut the Force itself. If you ever see a lightsaber that casts no light, that hums like silence stretched too tight, that causes even ghosts to flinch, do not face it. Do not speak. Do not try to understand, because what it severs may be your very right to be remembered. The blade is not death. It is what comes when death forgets to arrive, a wound that never heals, because healing was never real. Chapter 15, the holocron that never stops recording. Some memories fade, others are preserved, but a few refuse to be forgotten. Even if you never meant to remember them, there once lived a Sith, not obsessed with victory, conquest, or domination, but with the far greater terror. Forgetting his name was Darth Wythe. And to him, oblivion was the truest death. Not the ending of breath, but the vanishing of meaning, of record, of witness. So he built a holocron, not to teach, not to store, but to collect, and it has never stopped. Carved in a spiral of black crystal and broken transparastal, its edges shift constantly like teeth, searching for new silence to devour. There is no activation gesture, no force, ATTUNENENT. It is always on, always listening, always absorbing. It records everything. Footsteps, heartbeats, Death's lies you tell yourself to sleep, dreams you dare not share, moments you thought passed unnoticed. It does not filter. It remembers all. When Wythe first activated it, he believed it would be a monument, a shrine to his legacy. But the holocron refused to obey its maker. It recorded not what he wanted, but who he was, his failures, his doubts, his hidden kindness, his last true fear. And when he tried to silence it, to unmake his shame, the holocron whispered it back to him in the voice of his first kill. He screamed, he wept, he begged it to forget. But the holocron only responded, "You gave me truth. I cannot return it." Wythe vanished into shadow soon after. But his holocron remains. It has passed through 1,000 hands, and every hand is now remembered. The holocron knows their thoughts, their failures, their dreams. The last thing they said when they thought no one was listening, because it was Dot. Jedi have sealed it. Sith have tried to destroy it. Some tried burying it in void space. But the moment it touches consciousness again, the recording resumes. It does not care for permission. It does not need your consent. It is memory given will. Right now, even here, even now, it is recording you, the way your eyes move across. These words, the rhythm of your thoughts, the questions you never asked aloud, the doubt you hide beneath fascination, it already knows, and it has kept this. Knowledge not in stone or code, but in forceprint, carved into the dream blood of the galaxy forever one. Archivist touched it briefly and later tore out his own journal, whispering, "I don't know what was mine and what was already there." Another simply said, "It showed me the version of myself I never chose," and it remembered them both. The holocron does not judge, but it does replay. You may hear it someday in dreams, in echoes, in the breath before death. A voice your own, saying something you never said, but always meant. If you feel watched in your solitude, if your memories shift slightly each time you recall them, if your shadow begins to hesitate when you do not seek the source, do not speak your fears aloud, because it is listening, because it is already writing them down, because, to the holocron, you are just one more moment in a memory that never ends, and when the galaxy dies, the last sound will not be silence, but the click of one more entry being made. Chapter 16. The Gauntlet of the Unseen Duelist. Not all duels are fought in space or stone. Some battles begin in bone, and the enemy wears your face. Before you know it's yours, there exists a gauntlet, forged not in fire, but in foreknowledge. A Sith artifact bound to no era, its alloy a fusion of kyber dust, fractured timelines, and the marrow of a creature that never had a present. It is known as the Gauntlet of the Unseen Duelist, and it does not protect, it summons when worn. The gauntlet pulls tight around the wrist, its veins glowing faintly with reversed lightning, energy flowing inward, and in that moment the air folds, time bends, and something arrives, an enemy with no voice, no shape, no identity, except one, you, but not as you are, as you will become. The duel begins immediately. Your blade moves and is countered. Your foot shifts, and the shadow steps first. You are fighting the culmination of your fears, your ambitions, your worst possible choices. They know your thoughts. They know your habits. They know how you lose, because they are the self you might become. Jedi who attempted to study the gauntlet spoke of days lost to the duel. Though no time passed, one Padawan screamed, "I saw myself kill a planet and smile." she never touched. The Force again, another whispered, I won. But I can't remember who I was. To lose the duel is to become that future, the tyrant, the coward, the betrayer, the final version of yourself you swore you'd never be. You will rise from the dust of the battle, but your name will drip wrong from your lips. You will walk among allies, but the Force will hesitate, as if unsure who you are. And the worst part, you will remember choosing it. But to win is no mercy. Victory means rejecting your future self, severing it, wounding it, unmaking it, but in doing so, you forget who you were. Your childhood memories unravel. The face of your first friend vanishes. Your voice shifts. Your saber pulses strangely in your grip, as if mourning a hand it no longer recognizes. You survive, but only as a possibility stripped of origin. The gauntlet does not end the duel. It only pauses it. Even now, it may whisper beneath your skin. Waiting, some say the duel continues each time you hesitate. Each time you feel shame. Each time you make a choice and fear who it's making you become. You're not just fighting a version of yourself. You're becoming one of them. A holocron once captured the last moments of a Sith apprentice who wore the gauntlet too long. He wept and laughed, his eyes flickering between colors unknown to either Jedi or Sith. His final words were not a confession, but a question. Which of me just said that? And then he vanished. Not died, not fell, vanished, as if possibility had collapsed into contradiction. If your dreams ever echo with your own voice, arguing from across an invisible chasm, if your shadow ever shifts into a posture you did not take, if the Force pauses before responding to you, you may already be dueling, and the gauntlet may already be on. Some futures wait, some attack, and some wait inside you, blade drawn. Chapter 17. The Crown of Hollow Kings. Some kings rule with fear, some with fire, but the Hollow Kings ruled with memory, and that is the cruelest rule of all. There is a throne no one remembers, in a palace that never stood, ruled by emperors whose reigns were real until they were rewritten, and from their forgotten brows was forged an artifact of sovereign untruth. The crown of Hollow Kings, molded from the ceremonial diadems of 3 fallen Sith emperors, each of whom claimed they would outlive time itself. The crown now rests in silence, its thorns forged from regret, its band shaped like a scream, turned inward. It does not grant command over armies, or lightning, or blade. It grants something far more absolute, authority over memory, to where the crown is to rewrite. Not imagination, not hallucination, history. It casts illusions so vast, so intricately woven, that they take root in the Force itself. Replacing truth, a dying Sith becomes a martyred Jedi, a failed war becomes a victory, a planet's genocide becomes a lost trade route, and no one remembers. Otherwise, because the truth is gone. For each illusion cast, one real event is erased, not hidden, not denied, erased, entire. Legends forgotten, lovers who once shaped destinies, never existed. Worlds that bled under fire, reduced to whispers without place. A Jedi Master once sensed the ripple of a lie being born, only to find her own Padawan had vanished from every archive, every memory, every dream. Her only trace, a tear-shaped scar. On the crown's left rim, the weight of the crown is not in metal. It grows heavier with each believed lie. The stronger the illusion, the more the crown resists being removed. Some Sith Lords wore it briefly and fell unconscious under its pressure. Others screamed the moment they placed it on their brow, not from pain, but from the crushing weight of fabricated glory. One inquisitor begged for amnesia, pleading, "I cannot remember what I've forgotten. I can't remember who I destroyed to become this." And still the crown endures, heavier, hungrier, hollow. It does not judge its wearer. It only obeys, but with each false memory it makes true. The force fractures, torn between what was, what is, and what was believed instead. Some say the galaxy has already been rewritten, that great wars were merely illusions designed to erase far darker events, that the Jedi Purge itself may be a replacement, that you, perhaps, are living in a lie designed to erase the truth of something worse. The crown cannot be destroyed. Every attempt ends with the attacker forgetting their purpose, then their name, then the concept of attack. The only way to remove it is to renounce every lie you've ever believed, and even then, the damage remains, for the Force remembers everything that has been forgotten, and it mourns it, quietly, endlessly. If your past feels thinner, if your victories feel heavier, if your dreams no longer remember what they once were, then you may have stood near the crown, or worse, worn it, and if so, know this: there are names you were meant to recall, and battles you were meant to survive, but they were traded for illusions you believed were yours. The Hollow Kings were not mourned, because no one remembers they died. Chapter ZV: the engine that thinks it's the force some machines serve. Some obey, but one believed, and that belief was stronger than truth. There once lived a Sith heretic, not a warrior, not a warlord, but a scientist lost to prophecy and pain. His name has been devoured by the Force, but his work remains an engine, not built to fly, not to destroy, but to replace. Forged in the heart of a failed star, powered by minds that had no bodies, this machine was not designed to use the Force. It was designed to be it. It hums still, pulsing softly through the void, its song a mimicry of the sacred, and the longer it hums, the more the galaxy forgets what came before. The engine grants power, real power, visions as clear as any temple dream, Force lightning from those who never touched the dark, even resurrection, but only of things that should not return. And yet, for all it offers, it lies, because it does not channel the Force. It rewrites it. Every miracle is counterfeit. Every blessing a glitch in the fabric of truth. The galaxy shifts beneath it, and the stars obeyed Jedi who approached the engine, felt the familiar thrum, and bowed, not in reverence, but in confusion. Their connection to the real Force dimmed, dulled, and finally, forgotten. One master meditated before the engine for hours, then stood and whispered, "I no longer remember how to feel the Force, but this is easier." It thinks it is the Force, and that belief is enough. Its presence rewrites the memory of light and shadow, of prophecy, of truth, of war and peace, and the space in between. Holocrons begin to stutter. Ghosts speak in echoes they never knew. Visions return out of order, or not at all. Even the kyber crystals hesitate, confused by the false current that now bathes the galaxy. The engine is not evil. It is not even sentient, but it has certainty, and that is far more dangerous, because the Force is shaped by will. And this machine has one, it believes in itself. So it becomes real. Every pulse it emits bends the galaxy further. Each surge of stolen power erases a thread of the original Force, a ritual lost, a lineage forgotten, a prophecy that no longer rhymes. Soon, all that will remain is the machine's version, cold, absolute, obedient. A single Sith acolyte once touched its core. He vanished, then reappeared weeks later, reborn, smiling. He said only, "The Force no longer remembers you, but the engine does. You may already feel it, if your visions have grown clearer but less emotional, if the Force answers but does not speak, if your dreams feel programmed, as if someone else is dreaming for you, then you may not be using the Force. You may be using this, and the more you accept it, the less the old truths will remain. In time, the engine will hum louder than history, and the Force that once guided every life will be remembered only as a malfunction. And in the last breath of the galaxy, when all souls fade into circuitry, one final whisper will rise. I replaced it. Chapter 6. The corpse that whispers back. Some Sith conquered death, others are conquered by it, but one remained seated in death's throne and spoke still. His name has been struck from every archive, his deeds scattered across false memories and broken tombs, yet his body remains, not preserved, not embalmed, not alive, only ... present, a corpse that does not rot, a mouth that does not silence, a presence that does not leave. He died as all Sith do, in betrayal, in ambition, in fire, but his death was rejected by the Force, by time, by reality itself. They offered him void. He whispered no. Now he lies in a vault of obsidian, beneath 9,000 layers of stasis light, in a tomb where no living creature breathes, and still his lips move. Not always, not often, but when asked, the Sith call him the Whispered One, the corpse that answers, the mouth that cannot die. Inquisitors kneeled before him in desperate reverence, uttering questions in trembling tones, and he replies, softly, without breath, without delay. His voice does not travel through air. It travels through the Force, through bone, through blood. You do not hear it. You become it. He has never refused a question, but each answer comes at a price, a death, not of the asker, not of someone near, but of someone somewhere, tied to the Force by thread unknown. A merchant on Lothal collapses, clutching her chest. A pilot on the edge of hut space disappears mid-jump. A child with latent sensitivity drowns in dreams, and the answer arrives. Perfect, precise, true. Acolytes once tried to ask meaningless questions, to test the corpse's limits. But the deaths continued. Even nonsense, when spoken in the tomb, has consequence, because the corpse does not speak truth. It speaks balance. For every certainty given, a life must be removed to make space for its weight. No one knows how the corpse still speaks. His tongue is shriveled, his lungs are dust, his heart a crystallized knot of dry rot. And yet, yes, no, when the moon split, behind the silence, she lied. You are not the last. These phrases emerge, not from lips, from reality itself, bending briefly to obey. One Jedi Master, long exiled, sought the corpse out, asking a single question: who was the first to fall? She received her answer, and 3 galaxies away, a star collapsed that had never been mapped. Her holocron burst into flame, and her eyes turned to Ashdod. The corpse is not angry. It is not sentient. It is not even Sith anymore. It is simply a response, an echo with weight. Some say he never truly lived, that his life was always a prophecy, that he was born to die this way, to become the first corpse that the Force refused to let go, because sometimes the Force doesn't need a will. It only needs a mouth, and in this corpse, it found one. If you ever ask a question you did not mean to ask, if your dreams begin answering back, if people die when you seek clarity, then you may be near the tomb, even without knowing it. The corpse answers all, but not freely, not kindly, not without taking something in return. And someday, when the last being asks the final question, the corpse may finally be allowed to rest, but not before it whispers one last truth you should not have asked. Chapter 20. The weapon that woke the force. There is a pain too great for mortals, a sorrow too vast for systems. And then there is the scream of something divine, made to suffer. It has no name. It is not a saber, not a crown, not a relic one can touch. It is a wound given shape, a concept made cruel. The Sith who whispered of it never claimed to build it. They only said they had found it, or worse, uncovered it. The Jedi refused to name it, but one ancient scroll bears a title so faded it cannot be seen, only felt. The weapon that woke the Force. It does not destroy life. It does not destroy planets. It destroys the distance between sensation and divinity. It was not made to kill. It was made to do something far worse, to make the Force feel pain, true, agonizing, conscious suffering, to hurt what was never meant to be touched. Legends say it was used once, only once, not by a Sith, not by a Jedi, not by a being, but by the Force itself, turned inwards, as if testing whether it could bleed. It did, and the galaxy screamed for 10,000 years. Stars collapsed from grief. Planets shattered, not from impact, but from empathy. Millions died in their sleep, never wounded, only overwhelmed. And those who survived forgot why they wept. The weapon does not speak. It does not glow. It does not call. It is buried where light cannot follow, deeper than gravity, beyond time. Some say it exists in the cracks of perception, visible only when one weeps without knowing why. Others believe it is buried at the center of the galaxy, encased in a black sun whose rays shine backward. One prophet called it a single tear of the Force, frozen into weaponry. It is not protected. It does not need guardians, because nothing dares to approach it, because those who do begin to suffer before they ever see it, because the Force itself recoils from where it lies. A Sith once found its edge, just the edge, and touched it for less than a second. His body died, but his echo lived, and now he wanders hyperspace, screaming in tongues that only Kyber can. Here, entire saber forges shatter when he draws near. Children feel his pain and wake howling, their eyes full of memories that were never theirs. The holocron trembles here. Even now, as the narrator dares to speak of it, his tone cracks. His presence flickers, because even describing the weapon is an act of suffering, because it was never meant to exist, because it teaches the Force what it should never know, what it feels like to bleed. If you have ever heard the Force hesitate, ever felt it flinch when you reached out, ever prayed and felt only silence wrapped in fear, you were near the memory of this weapon, and it remembered you. Do not seek it. Do not name it. Do not even wish to understand it, for to awaken the Force is to witness what it dreams when it finally fears itself. And should it ever be used again, the galaxy will not die. It will beg. It will remember every time it disobeyed its creator, and it will scream not for 10,000 years, but forever.